helped a client do what I'm about to share with you, and we had several videos do this, and this. The catch is, for most creators, it's not something you think about right away when you want to grow. Howdy everyone. I'm going to propose a new way to go about recording videos that you may never have considered before. But once you do it, you may never go back. Here is the approach in a nutshell. First, identify one goal for your video. Second, build a framework thinking in audience modes, which I'm going to explain more about what that means here in a moment. Third, you immediately go to practice or record that video right away. And then fourth, then and only then, you infuse it with flexibility. Now we need to have a moment, a heart-to-heart between you and me here. Come a little closer here. I care deeply about you doing things in a way that fits you. So if what I'm about to explain to you does not work for you after you try it, or it just really does not fit the type of content you do, you have my permission to not do it. However, part of what I'm sharing in here will apply to any type of recording. And how will it enhance it? Well, first, it's going to improve your audience connection. They will feel like they know you better than ever before. Second, it will make recording for many people much easier than the struggle you're currently having. And third, it breaks perfectionism. It punches perfectionism in the proverbial booty. So let's workshop step one, making a framework based on an audience mode. Put in simple terms, a framework is just an outline or bullet points. Okay, we're not overcomplicating things here. What we're doing with that framework is we're tailoring it to where your audience is when they are watching your video. When we're creating an outline for an audience, I like to think in one of 5 audience modes. Think of these audience modes as the state of mind that they are in when they are coming to YouTube. And the key thing here is sometimes audience modes change according to their mood, according to what time of day it is. They might watch different things at 2 in the morning than at 2 in the afternoon. But you know how much I love to think about audience psychology and understanding why people decide to do things. As I've looked through, watched thousands of YouTube videos, I've categorized these watching modes into 5 different options. The first one is solve mode. They're coming to your video because they want to fix or accomplish something. With each of these modes, we are thinking first of, what is our audience going to get out of this? But in solve mode, it is usually an accomplishment. They're able to now do something that they weren't able to do before. So from there, we reverse engineer it and we say, all right, what bullet points do I need to share in order to accomplish this thing? And bringing back the circle here of viewing modes, this next one is what I like to call journey mode. With the audience being in the mode or feeling like they want to experience something. They want your content to take them through something. So as with solve mode, what we're doing is we're saying, all right, what feeling do we want at the end? What do we want them to have experienced as a result of these points that I'm sharing in my video? And bring it back, this next one is belong mode. This is when people want to feel like they're understood, like they matter for a moment, like they are connecting with someone, specifically with you and your video. So if they're in belong mode, what is the outcome then that we're building up to this point? It is the specific type of connection and relatability that you're looking to build with your audience. That's what's happening down here. And bringing it back to the watching modes, over here we have expand mode. This is when your audience is saying, all right, I just want to be expanded. My mind, my perspective, show me something bigger than my current world. With the end result for expand mode being, show me a new perspective. What new perspective are we accomplishing as we're outlining, building up to this point? This is feel mode. This is when people want to feel something. They're in an emotional state already, or a lack of emotional state, and they want to feel a certain way. It's kind of the emotional regulation content of YouTube. So these could be anything from calm ASMR types of videos to motivational videos, with the key end result for these being the feeling that we're delivering to our audience. And in fact, if you want examples of these in action, each of these 5 watching modes in action, I included some examples of what each of them look like, including titles and approaches for each of them. If you join my Radical Creators group, it's free and I will send this to you. You get into ClickUp, you go over here to production, and then you go up here. This is a production list. It's very helpful for planning videos. But if you hit this, and then you go to audience watching modes, I included examples of each of these. Next, what we're doing, and this is the secret sauce, is we're taking these things and we're making it feel natural. How do we do that? We take this step and we turn it into immediate practice. We are going to immediately say, all right, I've got my outline. I've got the things that I'm going to share with my people. I'm going to immediately go to a camera and turn it on and try to record that thing. If your heart jumps a few beats when I say that's good. That's actually exactly what we want. Because once you've turned on the camera, you've run through the outline that you put together, the very next thing you're going to do is do it again. Yes, immediately after your horrible, very rough first recording of the video, you're going to turn off the camera and you're going to start the camera right away and record it again. Now let's take a step back here and ask ourselves a question. What is this accomplishing for us? Have you ever watched someone who's very good at something? Let's say you're hanging out and they sit down and they're just playing around on the piano and they're able to have a conversation with you at the same time as playing the piano. There's one part natural talent in that, but the other part is practice. It's become more intuitive for them. And that quality alone is very attractive on YouTube. The ability to share something in a way that feels natural and confident is amazing. And while it is a natural talent for some very small amount of people, for most other people, it is an actual practiced skill that can be acquired. So when we talk about immediately turning on a camera, recording, and then recording again, that is the exact process that I went through several times with that client I mentioned at the beginning, as well as many other clients. Because I've noticed it as a pattern of conversational language, the type of delivery in a video that feels like it's natural. Like you and I were just hanging out together, we're just having a conversation. It's this. So once we've recorded it twice in a row, I want you to turn off the camera, pause, and say, how do I feel? Is there anything I would change about that? Jot down a few notes. Don't over-perfectionize it. Is perfectionize a word? Editor, can you make it look very official, like a dictionary definition? Perfectionize. Thank you. So what we're not doing is perfectionizing it. What we're doing now is we're saying, all right, I've run through it a couple of times. Now it's time to turn on the camera and do it again. And I'm just gonna leave the camera running. I'm not gonna start and stop the recording. I'm just gonna leave it running. Again. If this works for your types of videos. If it doesn't work exactly like that, adapt this to fit your style. And if you keep the camera running, you don't have to worry too much about it, especially if you use a tool like Gling. I've been partnered with Gling for a while. The tool is very good at turning rambling footage into concise, finalized, ready to go footage. The cutting, the clipping, the dead space, and the repetitions are completely handled by Gling. In fact, editor, can you show how we use Gling and a bit of how much I repeat myself when I'm actually recording? Yes, this is actual footage of Gling as I am recording a video. How often I repeat myself personally when I record the video, but you don't see it in the final cut because Gling makes it much easier to just cut that out with a single click. And yes, I spoke with Sephi personally, got you a really awesome deal on it. Give it a go. So as we've worked our way through this, let's move to the final step, adding back in the humanity into the recording. We've accomplished a lot of that already by just simply practicing and making what we're delivering in our video become more intuitive. But I'm going to invite us to take this step and make it even more natural and human by doing these things. First, we work through and overcome what I call mannequin syndrome, where you are having a conversation with an inanimate object. It's the grand feeling of talking to a camera lens like I'm doing right now. I am literally sitting alone in my room. You are not in this room present with me, but does it feel like you are? Yes, it does. Why? Because I've practiced this so much. So there are various ways to overcome mannequin syndrome. One of the easiest ways is if you have someone close to you, someone on your team, a family member that you trust enough to be able to be around while you're recording, that's a key part, to have them present with you as you are recording. I advised one client to have his spouse with him in the room behind the camera and even interacting with him as he was recording videos. I also had another client a while back who for a while, my role was to be the one sitting behind the camera, interacting, asking the questions so that it came across more natural. Now, if you don't have someone like that, the next best thing is to find a way that gives you the same feeling as having another person in the room. Some people will print off a picture of a good friend and they'll tape it right, next to their camera or above their camera. Other people will have a moment of meditation where right before recording, they'll take a moment, they'll take 2 minutes and they'll just imagine their audience. Another approach is, I've spoken with many people and helped people do this. You have a pre-recording ritual, a way to get yourself into the mode, which can include music, it can include meditation, it can include visualization of the audience you're speaking to in the environment that you want to speak to them. The ability to feel like you are speaking with another human being as you are speaking to the lens of your camera is unfathomable. It's very important. Now let's answer some burning questions. First, what about rambling? If I ramble a lot in my recording, what do? Just use Gling. That's the easy version. Like genuinely, it looks through all of the rambling you did and it picks what it thinks is the best one and it automatically cuts the other ones. It's easy to just click a button and add it back in. But also I will say this about rambling. I repeat myself a lot. I say the same thing several times in a row until I feel like I got it just right. And in 9 out of 10 cases, when I have a conversation with someone and they're concerned about rambling, what's underneath the surface is perfectionism. There's this feeling of, I've got to say it just right, and I've got to say it just right in a single take. I just want you to throw that out the window. Thank you, editor, for the window crashing and cat sound effect. I appreciate that. I want you to throw that out the window and instead just leave the camera rolling and just be chill. It's okay. Just move on, keep recording. Next question, what about my mind blanking out all the time when I try to record without a script? First, of course, practice is a key part in reducing the mind blanking out. But second, as I've observed myself and other clients, as I work through this mind blanking thing that occurs, I've come to the conclusion that it's often because of the perception of the environment you're in. It's why someone can give a whole speech in their closet and be just fine, but then put them in front of 1,000 people and all of a sudden they're not okay. It's the exact same speech. It's the same person. It's just a different environment. So I like to think of it as exposure therapy. I'm not a therapist, by the way, but my approach to this has been, and I've done this extensively with myself, if I'm avoiding something, if I find my mind blanking out on something, maybe I put myself in those situations more often. I've recorded on the sides of the street before. I've recorded in public spaces while walking around, a lot of ways that I had previously avoided. And just by simply expanding the range that I had exposed myself to, suddenly, if I was used to this, if I went back to this, it seemed a lot more manageable. What if scripts are the only way that works for me? Try this approach. Then if it doesn't work, and you really give it your good old college try, that's all right, use scripts. And next, what if I can't think of anything to put in the framework? Or what if I'm feeling like there's writer's block in the approach I'm taking? To solve that the best way I possibly could, I'm gonna recommend that you watch this video next.